think I try to reason myself when I take some risk, but I'm part of I like adventure. I like building things and being together, with people to achieve something, which is meaningful. The risk of failure is something which actually helps you grow. If you don't fail, you are not learning anything. And this is part of the difference between, I think, the American system and, for example, the French system. French system, we are raised, to be impeccable students. We know everything and no room for failure. Okay. And if you fail, you're dead. To me, success is do what you like. It's not necessarily being a CEO. There are some people who are highly successful. They do, wonderful missions to help people. They are,
Welcome everyone, and thank you for listening to Pharma Minds. Today, I am privileged to receive Marc de Garidel. Marc, he has an outstanding track record in the pharma and biotechnology world, as he was a CEO for the last 13 years. CEO of Ipsen until 2016. In August 20, he sold the company named Corvidia Therapeutics to Novo Nordisk. In February 2022, he sold CinCor Pharma to AstraZeneca. And today, he's the chairman of the board of directors of Ipsen and CEO and acting chairman of the board of Abivax. Yes, quite impressive. Hello, Marc.
Hello. Very nice to see you and to be part of this forum.
Yes, maybe you want to complete your presentation today. Did I say?
No, I think you described my latest things I've done. But obviously, before you get to the CEO job, you have to do a few things. So I think when I look back. I've tried to work overseas. I've worked a lot in the US, a lot in France, and a lot as well in Germany and Switzerland. So my background has been very international from the beginning. I always like to travel, always like to learn things. And the pharmaceutical industry actually lends itself very well to that, because drugs are for every patient, regardless of where they live. So I think I've been very lucky to have had this career. But I think fundamentally, the most exciting part is that you feel that you can contribute to the well-being of patients. And when you see, what these drugs could do when you develop them, it's very meaningful to make a difference ultimately to the patient's life. So.
Marc, I would like to know where you come from.
Well, I came initially from a family who was, doing olive oil. So I've been born on a farm in the south of France, which I think has given me the idea that when I was looking at my parents, it's very hard to work as in agriculture. So working is an important part of life, okay. And also the fact that you cannot cheat with with olive oil or with the production of things, because you're highly dependent on the weather, on a number of things. So I think you learn to be more earth grounded, okay. And always make sure you're not completely in the stratosphere for too long, okay. Because it's the hard life of agriculture. So
okay, yeah. And you didn't want to repeat this, but you...
No, because I think I was not patient enough to wait for the weather to go, and the frustration of not having enough influence on things you could do. So because you could do a very good job for the trees, and then all of a sudden you have a big storm. Yes. When, for example, the season where the flowers come, and then all the flowers are dead, and then there is no fruit and no olive oil. So, so it's a very harsh reality. So I said, I don't want to be exposed to things where I have no control, and even if I work hard, I don't get any benefit or any satisfaction. So,
Yes. Okay. How do you begin with a diploma as a civil engineer? Mm-hmm. And go into the pharma world?
Well, I think it was not planned. A lot of things, I guess, are not planned in life. So The French system, when you're young and you're relatively well educated, you learn to go to a system which is called the Grande École. And since I was, decent in math and physics, I ended up, doing an engineering school. But I quickly realized how bad I would be. I was in this École des Travaux Publics, so this civil engineering school in Paris, and I realized that probably if I were to build a bridge, it would collapse probably fairly quickly. So, so it was time to consider other options. And, then you meet some people. I think my older brother had done a business school and told me my character was probably more, anyway, was relatively driven, but more lended itself probably to more a business school type of environment. So I ended up doing, an MBA in the US, which I did after my military service. Because at the time we did the military service, and then I realized that when I was on campus, that a lot of companies came, mostly multinationals, and actually a number of drug companies. And in the end, I was lucky to meet with Eli Lilly, who had a very good program for young, MBAs in terms of development. And
it was in the US.
It was in the US. Yes, I've been in the US 6 years. I was also in France and in Germany with them. So it was a wonderful way to learn. And
you started there for them? Or?
I started initially in France, but quickly was sent to the US. And then they sent me back to Germany to be the CFO of the German affiliate. So.
Okay. Then financial stuff arrived quite early?
Yeah, but again, in the US, I was in marketing. I was in sales. So, you learn to carry the bag, as they say. So I think it's fundamental. You understand the business model, how you sell a drug, how you develop a drug, how you produce a drug, and Lilly had a program to allow again these young talents to be exposed to some of these areas pretty quickly early in your career, and then I was then I think lucky to enter really the biotech world with Amgen. After. I think I was 32 years old, and so I was the CFO of Lilly Germany, and I was getting impatient, and I said to Lilly, I think I want to go on the business side. And they said, yeah, fine, but, it will take a bit, a while before we can do that. And I met completely, again, by coincidence, so nothing was planned, actually a headhunter who was 82 years old. I will always remember I met with him in Frankfurt. I thought the guy was going to collapse before me, but he spoke very highly of a company called Amgen, which at the time, again, this was in 95, Amgen had just launched its erythropoietin in the US and was starting to do very well. But Amgen was not well known in those days. So I remember when I told the head of international that I was going to quit Lilly. I said, they asked me, where are you going? And so I said, well, I go to Amgen. And I say, well, Amgen, it's a small company. It's very risky. You don't know whether you're going to have a job. You should stay with Lilly. We have plenty of things for you to do. And I said, well, no, I'm sorry. I made my decision. I'm going to participate to the opening of the Amgen operations in Europe.
Okay.
And this is a wonderful thing to be exposed to learn to build up things. So that was the...
Yes, that is maybe the first important decision you made?
Well, it was important, for sure, for a career, yes, because it's... but it's a trait that I think, I've sort of shown is, I like risk, not a foolish risk, but I think I try to reason myself when I take some risk. But I'm part of I like adventure. I like building things and being together, with people to achieve something, which is meaningful. And then again, life gives you sometimes some opportunities. You don't ask for anything; they come to you.
Yes, you looked for them in the beginning.
Well, you obviously you try to do you try to do your job well. But again, there are some people who are a bit, I think, lucky to meet some special people who can help you and help you grow, and you can learn, and then you can apply some of those learnings to make a real difference.
And do you have any other? Okay, we won't go year by year through your career, but maybe do you have another like pivot point where you this is really a moment which changes the path of your career, or like important decision you took? Or?
No, maybe one thing that was a kind of I think funny, before that at Lilly, I had the head of Europe who came to the French affiliate where I was essentially the controller, and I had the business leader of Lilly had really the thought that it was important to expose young talents to senior management. So I was I was asked to do the budget presentation for the French subsidiary. Mm-hmm. And I was obviously very proud of it. So I prepared myself, I think, relatively well. And then so presentation went on, and then the head of the European operations had to ask me a number of questions. He was fairly detail oriented. By the way, he became well known because he became the CEO of Lilly, Sidney Torrer. And Sidney asked again a number of questions, and every time I was able to answer. And then at the end he said, jokingly, he said, Marc, in your pastime, are you just learning by heart the phone book? So that was, I think, a moment, in my
challenge you.
Yes, but ultimately, I think he wanted
to win the conversation.
Yes. Yeah, but I think he wanted to test me, and then he saw that I was, I think, relatively well prepared for, I tried to understand the business and to be able to show what the priorities were and how to get there. So I think it was, an important moment because, from that day, obviously, Sidney, watched me and helped me progress, at least at Lilly, which, again, allowed me then to jump to Amgen. So.
Okay. And then it means you're a detail-oriented guy, or?
That's actually also something that's tremendously changed because I used to because early on you have to be detail oriented because you have to know what you're doing, but I think as you get to more senior roles, actually the level of detail I think changed a lot. And what you want is you want to have the people around you who know the detail. But certainly as a senior leader, unless there is really a big crisis or something which is requires you to be probably also on the front line. Otherwise, the idea of delegation and doing the things that again my bosses did to me. So you delegate. That's how you grow as a leader, and that's why I think I was I've become a better leader because people trusted me. And if you do the job of your direct reports, something is wrong, right?
Yeah. Yes, but still being able to ask the good questions.
Yeah,
to be reassured or to be.
Yes, that's also another thing I learned from the CEO of Amgen because we had a number of leadership sessions with him, and one of his critical remark about leadership, he said the good leaders ask good questions. And it's not, again, always watching what the others do. Obviously, there is some supervision. But a leader, has to try to figure out, the path forward. And you can only understand the path forward if you ask, what are the different avenues to go to Rome? I mean, you can go to Rome, straight. You can go in different directions. Yeah. So that's part of a quality of, I think, a good leader is asking the good questions. And in particular, I would say, even more in science, where I'm not a scientist, so you get exposed to a lot of very technical things.
And risks.
What you have to force yourself is, again, ask always simple questions. Because the most simple questions tend to be the more pertinent. And also, this is a way to test, the people around you, because if they are not capable to answer very quickly to your simple questions, you have a problem. The person is not mastering what he or she is doing. So
yes, and I want to ask about leading the parts, and it means what? It means for the leader being in advance, or knowing a bit better what the future will look like, or
I think the leadership. We can discuss about the leadership in general, but there are probably 4 things that are, I think, attributes of a good leader, but there are probably more. But I think in general, one is you need to be able to set the vision of the company, but not only set the vision, but also translate it into at least high-level goals, so that it's not just a pure dream, but there is some actions that can be taken from that vision that can transform the vision into really concrete steps. So I think that's the first attribute of a good leader. So we can obviously discuss how you get there, but that's one big one. I think the second one is you need to deliver results. So you need to be driven by results. So you cannot have excuse. You set a goal, you need to make it. If you don't make it, obviously you correct. But consistency of results is also a very important attribute of leadership, and that's also what I've seen. I think the good leaders, they consistently perform. Bad leaders, they go up and down, up and down. So I think delivering results is number 2. Number 3, it's all about the people around you, so developing them, attracting them, developing them, retaining them, and making sure they do their best for the company, and we are all together. So they need to have a sense that it's not a collection of just individuals. It's really a team. So you need to form a team. That's the third, and then the fourth is more, I think, a personal one, which. Some do, some don't. But I think also when you're the leader, you need to be a role model. So we are not perfect. I always say when I do mistakes, I tell them, I say, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. But you have to try to show that you're a human being. You're not immune to making mistakes. But, when you do them, you accept. You say, well, sorry, I won't do that. I learned from it, and I move on. But, lying or trying to essentially defer the problem to somebody else, not taking responsibility is not a good thing. So as a role model, you're the leader, you're in charge of the whole thing. And yes, some mistakes are going to happen, some things are going to be bad, but you take charge.
Yeah, okay. And then in your career, some things were not defined in advance. Others were? You wanted to go somewhere?
Not really, because, if you had asked me again whether I would be a CEO of companies, I had no idea. I think
when it started to get a bit more clear.
No, I think what happens is over time I think my big luck is that I've been very fortunate to be in an industry which I profoundly like.
Okay.
And it's this combination of having the feeling that you are doing something good for a number of people, so it's a sort of feel good type of things. 2, it's highly complex.
Yes.
So it requires a lot of thinking. You work with a lot of smart people, and very often, as I say, smarter than I am. So it's another aspect, which enriches you every day. And then the third one is that it's a constant learning, because you go from one therapeutic area to another. Science keeps evolving. There are certain things we thought we were understanding 20 years ago, and now it's completely different. And there are still a number of unknown things we are doing. So it's this sort of intellectual, permanent challenge but with a good, with a good mission.
As a good purpose, yeah. And you told me a bit before, yes, you like to participate into the history of science, of medical science. Yes. And indeed, what is your real profound driver? Is that this? Or?
No, I mean, I took the example of CinCor, where we are developing this new agent for to treat hypertension. And again, this is a condition where patients are on 3, sometimes up to 7 drugs, and their blood pressure is still not under control, and they risk, heart attack, stroke, or death. So my luck was to be able to be leading, this company in phase 2 development.
Studies,
And what happened is that we proved in a fairly large phase 2 program that by administering this drug to patients, we would see a very profound reduction in blood pressure. And that had not been seen, at least in this hard-to-treat population for, probably 30 years. So what happened is when we look at the results, obviously we were, with the team, our CMO and the rest of the CinCor team, we were really so happy. But the most important reward was when we, again, collected the data, we sent it, to the New England Journal, and the day in Chicago where we were presenting at AHA, which is the biggest congress in cardiology in the world, when we presented the findings of this study, we at the same time published, the New England published the article. And for phase 2 programs, that happens very rarely. Usually it's more for phase 3, and again the result needs to be very good. So we felt, this is a special moment in the history actually of hypertension. And I said to all my colleagues at CinCor, you're making history. This study will be read, for the next 20 or 30 years by all the students, studying hypertension, because this is as good as it can get for any drug, at least in a phase 2 program. So this is part of this wonderful adventure that when you develop great drugs.
Yes, and is that what drives you?
Yeah, but I think the fact that you're working with top-notch investigators.
Yes.
You're trying to bring something very meaningful.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's not a copy of the 60th copy of a drug. But again, it's personal, right? There are some people who are probably better for working in generic companies because they are very good at replicating things. In my character, I like to be part of a discovery, trying to figure out things.
Yes, from the Amgen story.
Yes, exactly.
It's revealed. Yes, you wanted to go on.
It's a new frontier. You're trying to
making new market. And
yes, exactly. That's
thing.
Some people are like this. Some people
don't have to worry. And. Then Amgen was like a biotech at this time. Then you switched between
because over
pharmas.
time Amgen was getting bigger and bigger. I had I think a relatively bigger responsibility because I ended up managing pretty much Europe and a number of territories. But then at the end, but I was still not the CEO. And I think as you get older, there is a point where you want to say, I want to be my own, not my own boss, because you're never your own boss. It's always something you have to work for. But, to be fully accountable for a team and for things and having the whole thing. And this is where, I got, again, lucky that Ipsen, back in 2010, was looking for a change in leadership. And there was actually a couple of other companies, mid-sized companies, who were also looking, potentially to have me. I decided to join Ipsen, and it's been also a great learning because it was the first time where, again, I was responsible not only for commercial, but for the whole thing, for R&D, for product development.
First time, to go out of the
manufacturing, the whole thing. So it was, it was a great challenge, I think, initially. But again, over time, you learn. You get the things that are important. And by the way, coming back also to leadership, I think one of the attributes of a good leader is to figure out what's important versus what is urgent. Because the danger in the business life, you have always urgency that comes to you. And
real urgency, though.
Yeah, real urgency. They always come. But the problem is that when you are always dealing with urgencies, you don't think, and you're not able to take the profound decision that are going to make a big impact, which ultimately will again give you show that you're a good leader. So I think, for example, at Ipsen, the question was, we were developing a good drug for neuroendocrine tumors, and the question was, if we had positive results, would we launch the drug only in Europe, where Ipsen had a strong presence, or mostly outside of the US? But in the US, the question was, okay, should we go alone, or should we partner with a large pharma company? And the debate went on actually nearly a year. And then ultimately, I decided to conduct myself essentially the analysis by going to the US, meeting with, once we got the results, which were very good. I went with my medical director. We visited the top 20 oncology centers in the US, and they all told us, no, you have a great drug. Yes, you have big competition. It was actually Novartis, but you have a great drug, so you should be successful. So what I did, and I convinced the board. But I had nearly half of my management team who said, oh, you're crazy. We will never succeed. We've never succeeded.
It was not the habit. Usually you can...
Exactly. So, in the end, we did it, and we did it extremely well. So, again, these are things that when you're a leader, you want to be not only addressing, the burning fires that come almost every day, but you need to think a bit strategically. What are the decisions that are going to make really a big difference in the life of obviously patients, but also of the company?
You could have chosen to stay in Europe and...
Yeah, exactly.
Only.
Yeah. And what was very interesting is that when you look back a few years later, the partners had suggested that the drug would do between $200 to $300 million in the US max. We ended up standalone making nearly $800 million ourselves. So it just shows that partnerships, sometimes they make sense, sometimes they don't, and you just have to go through the thinking, is it a good opportunity for the company at that stage or not? But taking a calculated risk can bring a great reward.
Yeah. And can we go back a little bit on this period when you wanted to know if you wanted to go out of Amgen or to make the switch, to change, to decide to take this kind of role? How did it? Which kind of question did you add in mind at this time?
No, I think with Amgen again, there was probably two key drivers. One was I wanted to be ultimately a CEO of something. So even though when I was younger,
how old were you at this time?
I was I need to think. Well, a bit. I was getting close to 50. So, which is the age of maturity.
Yes,
so.
you wanted to have something to a party to make for your 50 years.
Yeah, exactly. So that was one thing. But I think the second one was I had been part of Amgen in the relatively early days. Again, in Europe, we were when I joined, we were 20 people. When I left, we were, I think, 3,000 people. So, we went from a phase where, it was really an adventure.
Yes, you've seen the
and then at 3,000 people, you start to be, again, much more constrained by a number of policies, even at, the complexity, Amgen was becoming, I think, probably 10,000 now people organization. You start to see processes that are, and also the people you see are, you attract very intelligent people, but the challenge is that some of these people tend to not to like risk, not to take things on their own. So they like committees, they like, they don't like this idea of
trying something.
Being truly accountable for something.
Yeah.
It's more the committee. I think it's an inherent part of the growth of organizations. Very hard to stop. So I felt when I was at Amgen, well, okay, maybe my next step, maybe I could be, in the US. I could have a big operation in the US, but still, I wouldn't be the CEO. So.
Okay.
So this is when
you wanted to be the CEO, but still in a small organization.
Yes, rather smaller organization.
Yes, to have the chance to make it grow again.
Yeah, grow and and take again, do things a bit more meaningful where you can have a real impact. So.
Okay.
Because it's part of the character. So.
Yes, that's your pattern. That's what you like.
Yeah, exactly.
That's your drug, maybe.
Maybe my drug, that's what drives you in the morning. So I mean, when you have to get up in the morning, you need to be, you need to, you need to have energy, and you only have energy, positive energy, if you do what you like. So that's.
It's important to understand it.
It's actually fundamental, and that's why some people, I think, are very frustrated at work because they don't do what they like, and they end up in a place where. So I mean, life is not only about work. There are plenty of great things to do outside, but if you do work, my view is let's enjoy it too. And again, enjoy it in a sense
fully,
but bring, do things that are significant. And even if and I think, the risk of failure is something which actually helps you grow. If you don't fail, you are not learning anything. And this is part of the difference between, I think, the American system and, for example, the French system. French system, we are raised, to be impeccable students. We know everything and no room for failure. Okay. And if you fail, you're dead. In the US, there's much more empirical. So you learn, you do things, you screw up a few things on the way, but you learn and you make it better. I mean, and you look at all the key entrepreneurs. Even you look at Elon Musk, who is a fantastic entrepreneur. He was fired out of PayPal. And in the beginning he was not successful at all. You look at Steve Jobs. I mean, there are a number of great leaders who have failed miserably, and you look at even Churchill in the political field, who had a pretty bad life for a while, and then when he became the prime minister, he became he will remain in history. So it's this question about the having the attitude to say, well, even if I fail, I done something, I'm positive, I move on. So
it's something you told yourself when you enter at Ipsen?
Yeah, because initially it was a bit overwhelming, and to have everything.
Yes.
It was. And I knew I was going to make some mistakes, but also what you start to realize, if you go back to this discussion about the big things, what you don't want is to make big mistakes, right?
Yes.
You can do small mistakes. Okay. If you do too big mistake, that can be obviously a big problem. So for that, you try to figure it out. So that's why it takes time actually to what I say, big decision require some time. You cannot take big decisions that are going to change the course of a company or certain activities in a few days. You really need to sit on it. Because they are too important.
You're talking about this example about going to the US?
Or, for example.
Yeah, because it's not a bad choice not to go to the US because it's versus something better. But if you don't make it, you don't know it.
Yes, so you're right.
Is that a mistake?
You're right, but I think when we saw ultimately the benefit of going to the US. I mean, this has changed completely the trajectory of Ipsen.
You cannot be blind for this.
No. So
it would have been a mistake to not go there.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So these are part of the things of being an entrepreneur. So I think over time, I've become probably more an entrepreneur, and I get impatient when the committees meet after committees. And not to decide anything. And what I have noticed is actually people who are too intelligent are not doing too well in the enterprise world because they don't know anymore. They see all the bad things, all the positive things, and they can decide. While ultimately, an entrepreneur, you have to decide. Sometimes again, it may not be the optimal solution. And again, in the worst case, as long as it's not a total catastrophe. You make a mistake, okay? You learn, and you're not going to. Life goes on, so so it's relatively simple, I think.
And then you jumped into from which stage you can say you started to be an entrepreneur when you jumped into a small biotech?
Well,
after,
ultimately,
or?
yes, probably more. Even though I think Ipsen was already starting to become more entrepreneurial. But yeah, for sure, when you're the CEO of Ipsen, I was managing 5,000 people, 6,000 people. I come to small biotech where there are 15 people, so it's a completely different world. Yeah. And it's part also, I think, of the character of some individuals. There are some people who like to have a huge staff, to be very their ego is very big. They want to have their army of people around them who love them and so on. I'm not like this. I'm more driven by action. By it's the famous quote. You are what you do, not what you say. So I think ultimately, yeah, I want to do things, and starting again early programs of development with in biotech in the US, where funding is relatively easier than at least in Europe, has been a fantastic opportunity, and shaping the big advantage I think I had by doing starting big and going into small companies is I benefited obviously from a lot of experiences, a lot of things I saw product succeed, product fail. So when you are in charge of you have one or two products to develop, you are much more acute to the important things to do to develop the drug and to find out how good the drug will be. And I think that has been one of my value added in the small biotech world, is that I am able to with the data that is available, to work with key physicians, with the chief medical officer and with the board, to figure out how we're going to optimize the development of the drug, and make choices on how we allocate the money we get from investors, so that we maximize the return. And that's because in some other biotechs you have younger people who have less experience,
yes,
and therefore they have not had this luxury of experiences. So they go one way, and if they had known all the complexity of drug development, probably they may have gone a different way. And in the pharmaceutical industry in particular, the challenge has always been historically, the critical element is to get a good drug registered, right, for FDA, for EMA, so in Europe. But now it's not only getting the approval of a drug, it's really getting a reimbursement. So if you don't start early thinking about reimbursement, how you differentiate the drug, then it's too late. Because then the risk is you get a drug approved, but you don't have the data that's going to convince the payers to reimburse the drug, and then there is no really hardly any future for the drug. So these are part of the things again that I've been lucky to be exposed to early on, and that I can apply in my role as CEO. And I think CinCor, in my judgment, CinCor was sold because again we did 4 phase 2s. So we did a large clinical program for phase 2 because we wanted to answer, in which category of patients the drug is really going to work very well versus the rest of the other, anti-hypertensive drugs. And we got it done. So.
Yes, you wanted to target from the beginning.
Yes, exactly.
And then do you think it's going to be better on future drugs arriving on the market because more and more would have this development program which is better done? Or
well, I think
do you see any change actually in this?
Well, the change is that when you look across the world, the US is still in terms of reimbursement, very fragmented. It's a private market. So for reimbursement, even though it has become much more difficult than it used to be, you can make obviously great returns in the US. In Europe, the situation is getting extremely difficult because of the crisis, because of the governments are struggling to reimburse very well. Some
new
new drugs which are meaningful. Again, there are some drugs that are new but are not necessarily meaningful and they don't add a lot of value. But those who add value, they still struggle to reimburse, and that's I think a big issue, really big issue. So I when we look at the share of innovation now in the world between the US and Europe is falling at a pretty dramatic pace. I think now, if I'm not mistaken, it's around only 20% of the drugs, of innovative drugs, are coming from Europe, whereas it was, I think, 40% not so long ago. So, but I think it's partly this political system which doesn't want to really reward well enough the risk associated with and the cost associated with drug development. While in the US, people are more accepting.
Then you want to choose for the biotechs you work in. You want to choose valuable drugs only, or how do you?
No, I think my what I've said, for example, at Abivax, where I am, is the key is differentiation. We need, when doctors or payers have options instead of picking one drug versus the other, what you really want to do is you need to design the clinical program which will allow you to demonstrate that those patients, this type of patient, would benefit the most from anything which is out there. That's what that's the intent. But what I'm saying, in the US, once you have that, okay, you have a good price and you can launch and you can make good returns. So you can return the money that was lent to you before. In Europe, it is becoming much more difficult.
Yeah, it's even less sure.
Yes, exactly.
Even if you have targeted.
Yeah, so which is problematic because it means that if you are sick in Europe, maybe if we don't stop this process, maybe 10 or 20 years from now, you may have to get treated somewhere else if you want to have a chance to treat your disease, which would be terrible.
What is it? A political problem?
No, yeah, but I think it's part of the sensitivity to I don't blame politicians because they have a very hard thing to do, but the question is, what is the value of innovation? What is the value of having research? Yeah. For example, if you are in France or let's say in Western Europe, this is part of being competitive in the world, and it's one of the most difficult area to be in. There are a lot of barriers to entry because it's don't develop a drug in like this. So what I don't understand is why politicians don't favor more this industry versus some others. And I think the part of the answer is, in the short term, it is costly because you have to reimburse them more. So and the benefit in terms of employment, the benefit in terms of patients are always something that comes a bit after. So it's all. I think you've seen certainly in the French press there have been a number of publications saying that it's the Ministry of Finance that dictates basically the medical policy of the country. And I'm sorry to say, yes, obviously finance is an important consideration. You cannot throw the money out of the window. That's clear. But at the same time, I don't think it's acceptable in a developed world like in France to have to go now potentially to go to other places to get properly treated because you don't have access to certain medicines. I mean, that's obviously.
And that's what we can observe today, like biotechs who don't go to Europe because.
And in some cases, some biotechs could say, well, if you don't want to reimburse us, give us a return which we believe we deserve, given all the risk we took, several years ago, and the millions and millions. I give you an example for Abivax, just the cost of a clinical study. Our phase 3 is going to cost 250 million basically euros. Okay, that's 1,200 patients. So if you divide 250 by 1,200, the cost of a patient in clinical trial is 200,000 euros. 200,000. So I think people should wake up. The politicians should wake up that yes, the cost of developing drugs is also getting much more. And if you don't reward those who are taking a risk, well, then again, it's I think very sad for the civilized world, I would say.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Important problem, but like beyond our pharma world and
yeah, but I think it's a part of our responsibility.
Yes, to explain and
to explain to it.
And
also, I give you an anecdote, because when I was the CEO of Ipsen, when you see some people with big civil responsibilities, as soon as they had somebody sick in their family, the first thing was, they want to give me a call to know, what to do, how to treat the patients, how to do the thing. And this is when I told them, I said, 2 weeks ago we were in a conversation. You were very, behaving not exactly in the same way to us. You were giving us a lot of trouble for the drug and so on. Then all of a sudden you have somebody close who's getting sick, and you call us, for rescue. So, the ambiguity of some of this the political world is...
we are at equality and in front of our health in the end. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. We want the best thing
exactly.
for us, for our family. Yeah.
That's right.
Yes. Yeah. If we go back to your biotech experiences, what did you learn after... Yes, having gone maybe to 1, 2,
yes,
3. Right. You repeat the story. It seems you like it.
yes, that's why.
You learn things probably.
Yeah. Well, again, I think what's wonderful in the biotech world is that you take an idea, you take an early idea, and you try to a scientific breakthrough or a new mechanism of action, and then you try to translate that ultimately to patient benefits. And what is kind of fun is that, but also risky, is that you have to raise, you have to convince, first the investors that what you're doing is very special, and that it's going to bring down the road great benefits to patients, or maybe to the pharmaceutical world, where as a biotech company you could get acquired. So I think the idea is that you can build up your team. You can find the proper investors. You have the right board of directors, and obviously all the medical advisors who around the world understand what you're trying to achieve. I mean, this is very special. And in summary, when I look at the biotechnology, I say there are probably 3 key areas for success. And at least when I was looking at which company I would want to work for, I was looking primarily at 3 things. One is the quality of the science along the unmet medical need. So this is going to really solve a problem that has not been properly solved until now. So that's all, I would say, one category around the science and the unmet medical need. So number 2 is extremely important, is the investors. Who are the investors and who is on the board? Because the investor obviously give you the money to do the right studies, but also the board has a lot of influence in terms of saying, well, we should support the CEO to go left or versus right, or right versus left. The importance of having a very competent board of directors is of extreme importance. And the third category is also, the team. How is the team? Is the team good enough? Is it good enough for the stage of the company? And can you develop it? Can you attract, even, better people over time?
Mm-hmm.
That's, I think, the third condition. So these are, to me, the three buckets of.
Yes, you look. Yeah.
You look, and then as always in any company, not everything is perfect. So there are areas where you feel this is good, this is sort of average, this is excellent, and then ultimately you have to decide, which one you pick. But at least now the advantage I have is when I look at a company, any company, I think pretty quickly I have a good sense on these three dimensions.
Yes.
Where they are. So.
And that's why you can go more and more rapidly to decide or to redesign the.
Well, it's also true that I don't. I could spend obviously. You could spend hours and hours looking at things. At the end of the day, you need to make. But it's true. I think with experience, you go probably faster because going back to the right question, you know how to ask the right questions because you've been exposed to some issues before, so you're able to identify the things that can go wrong or could go right.
Yes, because it's a new job in the beginning. And
exactly, and you've learned. So I think the industry. This is in an industry where you learn a lot by experience, which is good because it allows everyone to participate.
But yes, I'm sure you learn by seeing maybe also the world also evolving, and you need to adapt, and you need to propose the best solution for what people will accept.
Exactly.
Will want. Yeah. And you think yes, maybe as a CEO, you've seen you have progressed in your in your job, in the things you're watching. Which are the things who progressed?
Well, I think
the level of details you said maybe.
No, where you progress. I think I think where you progress is where you are good at and where you are not good at.
Okay.
So I think I know really very well where I'm not good at, and so what I need to do in order to have not a catastrophe in the end is to have people around you who can complement, where you are not strong or where you have little interest. I'll give you an example: contracts. I mean, I know how to review a contract, but I'm not very excited by reading a contract. So if you give me a 150-page contract, I'm probably one of the worst guys. So I need to read the intro, I read the conclusion, I tend to go fast, and I may miss things. So obviously, this is a responsibility to have, for example, a good general counsel to make sure that that person reads very well everything, identifies for you. So I think it's you need to know where you are not good at, and then you build a team around you to help offset that, so that we complement each other. And then for some other areas where you think you are good. Well, then you don't need necessarily tons of people in that in that area. So I think it's a lot of learning by experience, watching others.
Like every job is the same, indeed. Every job you have to learn and
yes, exactly,
and have better people in front of you.
Sure. Yes. It's part of the adventure.
Yes. We've said already. I wanted to talk a bit about your six senses you have. What is your best quality you have, but maybe something you didn't learn, which is natural for you.
There is resilience is a very important attribute, because you're going to go. Certainly in the biotech field, it goes up, then it goes down, then you have one thing that you didn't foresee that happens. But it's not the end of the world. So you have to learn and be resilient and hold tight. Assuming obviously you're convinced that what you're doing is very meaningful, and linked to that is also the level of energy. I think it's clear that if you want to be a CEO, you need to have a lot of energy, because the demands are tremendous. and especially in those times where if you have a setback, if you have to bring back the troops together after a big setback, how you remotivate them, how you rebuild a story, how you this is this takes a lot of energy, and I think some people, unfortunately, physically speaking, are not necessarily armed with that. They don't have strong stamina, and this is this has nothing to do with the person in itself. It's just the way. Some people have energy, some don't, and
you need to cultivate it.
And you need to get it, and that's why you have to be also careful in terms of how many hours you work, what you do a bit outside to decompress and to relax, do the things that are important in your life. Work is one thing. Family is.
How do you deal with this? Do you have maybe you progressed over your career to I don't know if it's protect yourself or yes, I think it's protect yourself.
Well, I think partly it's a discipline, and it's always hard to it's always hard to practice in reality. But I think you need to be very conscious that there are times where I think when you start to have even your brain, which doesn't function very fast, when you start to struggle a bit with resolution of issues.
Yes.
To me, these are symptoms.
Yes.
That you are tired and that you are not properly balanced. So what you have to.
Then you act now.
So what? Yeah. So you act now. So I mean, sometimes you can't act immediately because you can say, I'm gone. But
wait one weekend.
But I would say at least during the week, what I find is you work tend to work very hard. But I think on the weekend, the discipline of trying not to get carried away into, again, following a number of things, from the office is very important. So you need to find ways, and each person is different, with a family, with sports, with, art or music or whatever, to try to, not completely, you cannot go completely shut down, but
deconnect,
and reconcentrate on something else which you enjoy, where again you are recharging your batteries as a result, and you're more sane in your decision making, because I think again part of the CEO responsibility. This is where the key is. It's not to be 200 driving the car always 200 miles per hour. You need to drive the car fast, but you need to know which road to take, where you go. And in order to do that properly, again, your spirit, your health needs to be good, so that you think broadly, and you're not just like a.
Even so, you said you worked a lot.
Yes, you have to work a lot because it's just CEO. You're a CEO. Ultimately, you're responsible. You get all these urgencies that still you have to deal with, at certain points. But I think again, trying to, the weekends or taking vacation, for example, the Abivax. I said, first 2 weeks of August we're all gone. I don't want, we're in the middle of preparing a lot of activities financially. It's going to be very intense.
Yeah.
I said, okay.
Yes, I want you to be.
Yeah, we should down.
Good at
yeah. So that's part of the discipline of, and then what I think what happens is, the employees are very happy because they recharge, they change a bit.
You're the example.
And then they come back. I didn't send tons of mail during the breaks.
But you did.
No, not a tons. No. Very limited. No, actually, one or two a day. So which is very.
Yes, but receiving an email from you is.
Yeah, but it was not. Again, it was like urgent things, but it was not.
Yeah.
Not like in a normal day.
Yes, and it reminds me. A quote from a Silicon Valley investor who talked about discernment. Mm-hmm. It's maybe something. You're talking about, and yes, it means it's a crucial quality, I think. Were you sometimes embarrassed to make something wrong, or did that happen to you?
Oh yeah. I mean, I can tell you, I did. For example, I was exposed with Lilly when I was in the US on a deal. We were negotiating to buy a biotech company, and talking about reading a contract. I didn't read very well well enough. It was 3:00 in the morning, I have to say, so I had some excuse, but nevertheless, I didn't see one paragraph that the small biotech had inserted, and I didn't see it. Okay, so the next morning, we present the draft to senior management about the deal, and they look at the key terms, and they look at this paragraph, and they turn to me to say, Marc, why is this? And I say, oh shit, I missed it. It's my fault. Okay, so they said, they told me, okay, well, next time, this is an important part of the contract, and you're responsible. So make sure you read it correctly. It is what it is. I didn't feel good. I felt bad actually for a little while.
Yeah.
But then I moved on, and I continued to do well afterwards. So it's not the end of the world. Again, making mistakes is part of life and
the game. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's just the way it is. So.
Yeah. Yes, Marc, I would like to go on this second part of the discussion. I would like to go on more personal questions, maybe. Mm-hmm. Yes, the one which is burning me is, I think, yes, people most of the time when they are getting older, they are more and more afraid of. They have some fear about doing things, new things, trying. And I think it's something you're not experiencing. And yes, I'm curious about this because it's...
Oh, you have always to look forward to things. So life is short. Obviously, there is an end at some point.
For everyone.
For everyone, including yourself. So, but you can't be terrorized by the whole time. So I think the only thing is try to adapt. Is to look, is still to have projects going forward, but obviously to adapt them to the age you have, because it's clear that when you are 65, you cannot do the things you were going to at 25. So it's an adjustment of what do I want to do, where am I going to have fun. Are there some things that are probably becoming more meaningful now that I am, older than before? For example, like helping people, doing some coaching or doing certain things that one would not be necessarily interested to do in your earlier years. But there is always open, and life is I think in my view, life is still a wonderful experience. And you have to make the best out of it, regardless of your age. And you need always to look forward, because if you're constantly complaining about this and that and this, yes, the world, I mean, when you obviously read the news every morning, when you look at your iPhone, there are times where you say, this is crazy world, this is highly depressing and so on. But, once...
yes, but maybe, actually, I don't... I'm not the good person to talk about this, but... you are fear for tomorrow, maybe more and more for tomorrow, and you don't dare to do things, and
no, that's not.
It's
not.
It's definitely not your style, but indeed, I think most of the people naturally act this way.
Well, I think the entrepreneurs probably are less exposed to that, because part of their life is to build things and to try to do things. So again, even though with age there are probably certain things you can not do anymore because you don't have also the health or to do. But I think it's a lot is personal attitude and how you see the how you see the world and. As always, there are plenty of bad things. There are some bad people.
But you're a positive guy.
Yes, I'm very positive. I'm more an optimist. So. Yeah. And probably that's why also I've done a few things, because some people may have said this guy is a bit crazy to do.
Crazy?
To do this.
Are you a dreamer?
Well, I don't know if I dream. I dream a bit. Yeah, sure. Yes, but yes. Sure.
And do you have any doubt?
Doubt. Doubt comes. In certain situations. Yes, when you're starting to experience something that you had, especially if you had not anticipated it, because there are things. Again, when you go on one path, you know you're going to get. Certain issues.
Yes. How it arrives and how it goes. To navigate.
So that. But what's more disturbing is when something comes out of the blue.
Yeah.
And then say, "Oh shit! I didn't think about this one." That's more disturbing. But again, you sit on it and you try to. And you speak also to other people. Try to get some opinions and then you try to surmount it. That's That's the way it is.
Yes, and finally, what does mean success for you?
Fundamentally, to me, success is do what you like. Success. It's not being necessarily being a CEO. There are some people who are highly successful. They do wonderful missions to help people. They are you don't need to have necessarily large organization. So. Do what you like, and if it's meaningful, that's at the end of it success. Exactly.
And then, what is your next dream?
My next dream,
yes. Like having another one.
My next dream is to I think
biotech.
My dream is to get Ebivax, get this drug to patients. I think that's if I do that, I think I'll be happy.
That is your current dream.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. One thing at a time. One dream at a time.
Do not mix dreams.
No, because otherwise you get confused and you get if you have too many priorities, it's not good. You don't achieve anything. So you have to still keep one big thing in your mind and then try to achieve it.
Yeah. Okay, we are slowly going to conclude. I would like to know, do you have kids?
3 kids, yes, 2 boys and a girl.
Okay.
Yes.
And I would like to know what you advise them, how do you guide them on their profession. What do you say?
I tell them exactly the same thing. Do what you like. No one is the same, all different. Be who you are and be confident in yourself, because I think partly, my kids tend to be a bit too low-key, a bit reserved. And what I've learned, because I think I was also pretty reserved when I was young, do what you like, and don't judge what you do by what others tell you.
Yeah, starting from your parents.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, exactly. So I didn't say to my kids, you must do this or you must do that. No, tell them do what you like, but then you go for it, because you can't do things halfway. So
and now it's no. Yeah.
Because otherwise you're going to fail and you're going to feel miserable. So get but. Everything is possible in this world. So do
And I would like maybe to repeat the question. If you have any advice for the people who are listening, for their, I don't know, if it's their career, the way they want to achieve something.
Well, I think if they want to be part of the industry, whether it's again pharmaceutical or biotech, is have a positive attitude. You need to be willing to learn. You need to be willing to do things, get exposed to different things, because that broadens really your horizon. Certainly, more specifically, if you're a bit younger, working in the US, I would say it's a wonderful experience, and I think brings you to a different level of professionalism, given the demand that are out there. But enjoy life. This is a special industry. It's a wonderful industry. We do good to patients. It's highly complicated. It's very interesting. It changes. So, keep learning.
Yeah, it changes a lot. And,
but that's why you have to adapt. And this is where, again, I think some people have this ability to adapt sort of constantly due to the needs. And some are really fixed in that. I think they are going to struggle in this industry.
Thank you, Marc. Thank you for this wonderful conversation. It was really a pleasure to meet you. And yes, I think all the people who are listening will be really happy to discover this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for listening. I hope you gained valuable insights. Want to keep chatting? Drop your comments on LinkedIn. You'll find the link in the episode description. Got ideas or guest suggestions? Message me on LinkedIn. And hey, if you want to support the podcast, give it 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. That means the world to me. Catch you soon for more exciting episodes. Stay curious, stay inspired, and stay tuned to Pharma Minds.